Hello my beautiful crafty friends, I'm Katia with Lunar Sun Creations and I have another free tutorial for you today. I once again teamed up with Vectoria Designs and I am using their Timekeeper collection for this project. I am in love with these papers because I love clocks and vintage things like that. I don't know what it is about timepieces, like especially vintage ones, but I love them. And I also love the design of this album. I think it's a really cool design. So I hope you enjoy it as well, and we'll get the papers and try and make it. It's a fairly easy project, so you got this. If you are enjoying my content, I would love for you to boop that little subscribe button, or give this video a like, or comment down below. Any of those things, they all help my channel to grow, and I so appreciate them. All right, let's go through the materials list. We'll check out the paper collection and then we'll get going. Okay, so here is the project we are going to be creating. This is the front. I've got a couple metal embellishments on here. Very simple sides. On the back, I just have one of the cut-aparts on the back. We've got a magnetized flap with a little ribbon pull, so this opens like that, and then just a simple waterfall. Most of it is white. I just put strips of the paper just so there was a lot of space for journaling. And then it also opens like this. So you've got another journaling spot and then some of the pattern paper. The whole thing opens to the side, opens to this side as well. And then we've got this beautiful spread. So over on the left here, we've got two swing tabs. And both of these flaps open. One opens down. The other opens up with some of the little cut-aparts. They both open to the side. And then we've got a pocket here with just a simple little folder in there. And then this whole thing opens to the side. Another spot for journaling, one of the cut-aparts, one of the file folders. And then here, stuck down to the page, is a journal. So it's it's a sewn signature. So it's got in the center it's sewn together, and it's got just plain copy paper as well as the journaling pages, as well as some extra cardstock that I had. So lots of space for journaling. I've embellished a lot of the pieces with some of the cut-aparts. I used quite a few of them. And so yeah, it's just a simple journal, and then it is adhered to the album itself. All right, and then these close back up, do up the swing tabs, and then in the center, I've used one of these clocks as the closure. And then this opens to both sides, and then we've got a pocket here. That opens up. Another one of the cut-aparts. And then this whole thing opens up with this left flap. And then this flap opens. And then we've got another one of the journals. I won't go through every page, but you get the idea. All right, and then the whole thing closes up like that again. All right, so that's what we're going to be making today. Okay, let's go through the materials that we're going to need. Adhesives. I like to use both double-sided tape and wet adhesive in conjunction. This is for the construction of the album. If you don't have double-sided tape, then you could just use glue and vice versa, but I like the two of them together. For adding the pattern paper, I use my ATG gun. If you don't have one of these, again, you can just use the double-sided tape. We will need some scissors, a ruler, some magnets. I can't remember how many magnets I used in this, maybe about 20, but you could probably get away with a couple less than that. We will need our paper trimmer, a craft pick or crocodile or something that can punch a hole through multiple layers of paper. I will be using some ink to ink up possibly the edges of my paper, but mostly I'm going to be using this to ink the white side of my Tyvek, which I'm going to wrap around part of the cover. And I just want it to match the paper that I'm using. I'm going to be using a deep blue for the base of this instead of black or white. So I'm going to be using this ink just to match the Tyvek to this. If you're using white or black, you don't have to do this. We will need some waxed thread or some kind of thin, strong twine, because we're going to be making two tiny little journals that will be going inside of our folio, and we're going to bind them, like kind of sew the signatures together with some thread. And then we will need our scoreboard, coloring tool, and bone folder, a piece of Tyvek or a Tyvek envelope, and we will be using this to go around the spaces between our cover. And then we will need some chipboard for the cover itself. And of course, we will need some patterned paper. I'm going to be using the Timekeeper Paper Collection from Vectoria Designs, so I'll quickly kind of flip through it. Some beautiful imagery. I don't know what it is about clocks and steampunk stuff, but I just love it. So quite a few cut aparts, file folders, more cut aparts, some kind of bookmarks, pockets, and then some just patterns. There is so much in this collection. I love that they include the kind of pattern but solid sheets, like one color sheets, because it gives the eye a chance to rest among the busy patterns like this. So they have both horizontal and vertical designs. Okay, and then there's the journaling cards or journaling pages. I've only printed out one size of the journaling pages, and they come with a white border around them. I've already cut that off. And I've just printed them one-sided this time. Last time the printer kind of messed up my order, so I just decided to go one-sided, and then you can write on the inside. So here's just a few of them. There are quite a few more, but I have already kind of put them into a journal. Well, here, I'll show you. This is part of what we'll be doing. So I've just kind of bound them into a journal with some other papers as well. So we're going to be doing this a second time. So we're going to have two of these. So we're going to be binding them together with the twine. Okay, like that. So that is our papers. Shall we start crafting? I think that is the perfect thing to do. All right, let's do this. Let's get going. Okay, we are going to start off creating the cover. Just a note, I'll be saying everything in inches because that's the way my brain works, but I will write the centimeters somewhere here on the bottom of the screen. Okay, so we will need 2 pieces of chipboard that measure 6 inches by 8.5. You will need 1 piece that is 4 inches by 8.5, and 2 pieces that are 1 1/4 by 8.5. Okay, so cut those and get some double-sided adhesive on the back of all of those. And then you'll also need 2 pieces of Tyvek that are 4 inches wide by somewhere around 20 inches long. We're going to be wrapping this around the cover to connect all the pieces together. So as long as they meet each other in the center, that's long enough. So minimum 17 inches, but a couple inches of overlap is definitely awesome. I've put my double-sided adhesive on the black side of my Tyvek envelope so that the white is showing, and I'm going to ink up the white just like this. So I'm not going to do too much of it because I don't want to mess up my background, but I'm literally just going to smoosh on ink all over the white so that it is matching my paper. So I'm just going to do that off camera real quick so it has a chance to dry, and then I will be right back. Okay, so now we're going to wrap each of our chipboard pieces. So you want the cardstock to go about an inch around the circumference of the chipboard. So to cover the two large pieces, you need 2 pieces of cardstock that are 8 inches by 10.5. And then you'll need 1 piece that is 6 inches by 10.5, and 2 pieces that are about 2.5 by 10.5. Okay, so get those cut, and we're just going to wrap these up. So I'm just going to remove the tape backing from my chipboard. Place it smack dab in the middle. Score tape all the way around the perimeter. Take your scissors and cut the corners. So I'm just cutting in until I reach the corner of the chipboard, angling my scissors just a smidge and cutting out, just so the pieces can bend individually. Okay, get rid of those. Okay, and now each of these will just fold around your chipboard like this. Okay, so remove each of the score tape backings and push her down. Just like that. Okay, and you're going to do the same process with each piece of chipboard. So the other big one goes here, and then you can figure it out. The little one goes with the little piece, etc., etc. So I'm just going to finish wrapping mine. It's the same process for each piece, and then I will come back when that's done and we'll finish putting our cover together. So just follow those same steps. Okay, I thought I'd do this last one with you just to show you one more time how to do it. You'll notice on these small ones that the end bits are a little bit longer. There's no particular reason for that. I was kind of trying to use up scraps when I was cutting pieces, so that's just kind of how it turned out. And yeah, then cut in, and so there's just like a slight angle. Okay, get rid of those. Remove your tape backing, fold it over. I do find that giving it a fold first before taking off the tape backing does make it a little bit easier to fold it over. And then go over each one of them with your bone folder just to make sure everything is really adhered well. Okay, and they're going to be arranged like this. And now we grab our Tyvek. Removing the tape backing. Okay, and then I'm just gonna shove these out of the way for a second. I'm gonna lay this down sticky side up and put my cover on there about an inch or so in. Leave a small gap in between the two pieces. And then put the other cover on. Again, leave a gap. I should have, this one's a little bit more than an inch, so try to get it so there's about an inch for each of the covers, and then this in the center. And then we're just going to pull one end up like that, and then the other end down. Give it a good crease with your bone folder. And there you go. Now we'll do the other side. So removing the tape backing. Try to get this one a little bit more even. So about an inch. Put this one on there with a little bit of a gap. Make sure they're even with each other. And then this one. And again, fold this up. And this one down. You're not going to see very much of this because pattern paper is going to be covering most of it. So if it's not perfect, do not fret. Okay, I like to kind of run my bone folder in between the creases as well. It just helps it to fold. Okay, so it's going to close like this, and then this one's going to close over top of it. So here is our cover. Okay, so set this aside for a moment and we are going to get our pieces ready. Oh, well, so much for my nice white. I guess it wasn't completely dry. Oh, one note, if you do end up having to color your Tyvek, make sure not to use a water reactive ink. So we are going to be cutting pieces for this section of our folio right now. So you'll need one piece that is 8.5 by 6.5. Two pieces that are 4 3/4 by 4 1/4. Two pieces that are 4 3/4 by 4. And one piece that is 9.5 by 4. Okay, so get all of those cut and grab your scoreboard. Okay, your largest piece, your A piece. We are going to put it in your scoreboard on the 6.5 inch side, and we are going to score it at 1/2 and 3/4. See if I can get the proper light. There you go. Okay, so that's our first piece. The B pieces, we're going to score on the 4 3/4 inch side. So the slightly larger side, again at 1/2 and 3/4. So making that same gusset as you did on the first one. Okay. The C pieces, which are the 4 3/4 by 4, we're again going to score at the 4 3/4 side, and we're going to score just at 1/2 this time. Okay, and then the long piece, we are going to score on the 4 inch side at 1/2. And then we're going to rotate it in your scoreboard, score at 1/2 again. And then we're also going to score at 9. You can also do it this way. You can go half, rotate half, and then rotate all the way around, like just so that there's a 1/2 inch on both of the short sides and a 1/2 inch on one of the long sides. Okay, we can put our scoreboard away for a moment. We're gonna add score tape to every one of those 1/2 inch sections. Okay, so everywhere that there is a 1/2 inch section, we're going to add some score tape. And you want to make sure you leave just a tiny gap between the score tape and the score line itself. Okay, so let's see if we can focus. Focus. It doesn't want to focus. Hopefully you can see that. There's just a tiny gap between the actual fold and the score tape. Okay. Sorry that you have to look at my hands, which are now covered in ink. All right, the ones that have the gusset, make sure to just go on that half inch and not into that gusset. Okay, last piece. Okay, now we are going to miter each of these corners. So we're just going to trim a little bit off each end, not going into that gusset, just off the 1/2 inch part. This just makes a neater fold when you're folding these over. And then the ones that don't have that gusset, you're just going from the score line to the edge of the page. Okay, and then the pocket, we're going to trim it just like we did the cover pieces, where we go in till it hits the corner and then cut out. Okay, so just like that. All right, get rid of all those little bitties. And now we're going to fold and crease each one of these. Okie dokie. We're gonna bring our cover back in, starting with our A piece, which is this big one. We're going to adhere it to the very left edge of our base. Here's where I add a little bit of wet adhesive just to make sure that these stay put. Okay, right on the very far edge. Okay. Then your B pieces, the other ones with the gusset, are going to go on the right edge. Okay, so one up here. Dry fit the second one just in case you need to trim any off. Mine's looking good. Okay, so that's going to go right underneath it. Make sure they're even. Okay, perfect. Now we've got this gusset here because eventually we'll be gluing in our journal parts. Okay, so this allows room for these pieces to fold over the journal. Okay, but we'll do that in a little bit. Okay, so next we've got our C pieces. So the first one is going to go at the bottom of the top B, and the other one is going to go at the top of the bottom B. Okay, so this one goes up, this one goes down. We are going to add a couple magnets to these. So take a tiny piece of score tape, put one there, put one down here. So make sure that there's at least half an inch all the way around the magnet. We're going to put a single magnet on each of those. And then let another magnet just kind of find its buddy through the cardstock. Put another tiny piece of score tape and then remove the backing, close it up. And then on this one, another tiny piece of score tape. Remove that backing, close it up. Okay, so now you've got magnet there, magnet there. Okay, so close the A, and we're going to put this pocket onto the front of the A, just like that. Okay, so I'm going to remove the tape backing from the sides of the pocket first. Let the bottom half-inch section adhere to the sides. This allows an easier slide of things into the pocket. Then once again we'll add some wet adhesive all the way around the half-inch section and onto the front of our A. Okay, now we've got a pocket there. Now we're going to add 2 magnets going from the back sides of these onto our A. So one here, one here, remove the tape backing. Now I'm going to put 2 magnets magnetized together on each of those. And then another piece of score tape. Okay, close them up. And now you've got magnets. Oops, that one didn't adhere. There we go. Okay, and now when there's no cardstock in between the magnets, I like to add a little bit of score tape. Otherwise the magnets are so strong that they like to join back together and they don't stay separate. Okay, perfect. So that is our left side of our folio. So now we'll put this to the side and get our pieces ready for the center area. Okay, so for the center bit, you'll need 2 A pieces, and they measure 8.5 by 3 3/4. 1 B piece that measures 6.5 by 9 1/8. and one C piece that is 6.5 by 5 1/8, and one D piece that is 5.5 by 4. Get your scoreboard. For the A pieces, we're going to score them on the short side at 1/2 and 3/4. So again, doing that gusset to allow room for our journal that will go in there. The B piece, we're going to score at 4.5 and 4 5/8. So just a tiny little gusset in there. The C piece, we're going to score on the 5 1/8 inch side at 1/2 and 5/8. And then the D piece, we're going to score at 1/2 on the shorter side, and then 1/2 on each of the 5.5 inch sides. Okay, so 1/2, 1/2, 1/2. Okay? Hopefully you can see that. All right, put your scoreboard away. Going to add score tape once again to all of those 1/2 inch sections, leaving a tiny little gap between the score line and the score tape. The B piece does not require any score tape because there's no 1/2 inch sections. 1/2 inch sections. And then the 2 A's. Okie dokie. Now we're going to miter all of our corners, just like we did on the first part. Not cutting into the gusset, just the 1/2 inch section is getting mitered. Again, B doesn't require anything. And then the D pocket is the same as the way we did the pocket on the first part. Okay, get all those out of the way. Fold and crease all of those score lines. I know these tiny little gussets can be a bit of a pain. I kind of almost roll it over, like crease one of the score lines and then kind of roll it over to get to that second score line and crease it again. They do make a difference though, honestly, for allowing everything to close nicely without any resistance. Okie dokie. Let's bring back this bad boy. We're going to work on this part now. So the 2 A pieces are going to go on the left and the right. I don't know if you can hear my cat snoring. I don't think the microphone would pick it up, but he's in the corner snoring right now. It's pretty cute. Okay. All right, so there's those. Okay, move this out of the way for just a second because these ones are all going to go together as a little booklet almost. So you've got your B piece here. Your C piece is going to go on the side opposite the fold. Okay, and then your pocket is going to go right in the center. Okay, adhesive all the way around. My tummy just made the biggest rumble. It's almost time for dinner for sure. I hear you, tummy. Okay, that's just gonna go at the bottom there, and then these are going to fold over like that. Now this whole section is we're going to put score tape or glue on half of it, and it's going to adhere down onto the left side of A, like the left A. Okay, so it's going to sit like that. We're not going to do that though until the decorating process because we want to make sure there's pattern paper on the A piece before we adhere this down. However, we can add our magnet now. So we want it to open like this with the pocket in the center. Okay, so on the back side, so right here, we're going to add a single magnet. Actually, we'll add 2 magnets with another piece of score tape. Okay, and now we're just going to position this right in the center, or as central as you can get it. And push down, and that will adhere that magnet in place. I'm going to put a little bit of score tape over top of that magnet. Okay, and now when we go to glue it down, it will know where it's supposed to go. Okay, I'm going to quickly make some dinner so you don't have to listen to my tummy rumble, and then I'll continue. Okay, moving on to our third section, and it's going to be on the front of this flap. You can put it on the inside flap, but I plan on having magnets on here closing this flap, so then you wouldn't be able to use the magnets in the same way. But if you really want to, you can put it there. It just won't, there'll be a little bit of a gap there between this part and the front. So I'm gonna put it on the outside. That being said, your pieces that you will need are, you will need 2 A's, and they measure 4 5/8 by 6 1/4. Your B piece is 4 1/2 by 8 1/2. And then you will need 5 C pieces, and they are 4 inches by 5 1/2. Okay, grab your scoreboard. Okay, the 2 A pieces, we're going to score at 1/2 and 5/8 on the 4 5/8 inch side. Okay, creating that little gusset again. Your B piece, we're going to score at 1/2 on the 4 1/2 inch side. And all of your 5 C pieces are going to be scored at 1/2 on the 5.5 inch side. Okay, you can put your scoreboard away, and we're going to do what we've been doing all along, adding score tape onto all of our 1/2 inch sections, and then mitering the corners and folding the creases. Folding and creasing. Okay, bring your journal back in. We're going to start with the A. Okay, so the A pieces are going to go on the left and right edge at the bottom. Okay, so one's going to go here. And one's going to go over here. Okay, your B piece is going to go on the left-hand side. Okay, and then all of your C pieces are going to go on top of your B piece in a waterfall fashion. Okay, so we're going to put the first one right at the top. Okay, open it up. And then the next one is going to go just a little bit below that 1/2 inch section of the first. Okay, so I'm leaving just a little bit of a gap. Okay, so here's where the 1/2 inch section ends, and then I'm just leaving a little bit of a gap. Okay, and just keep putting those on until all 5 are on in the same way. And I'm not measuring this gap, I'm just eyeballing it. Make sure these are all straight. Okay, and there's all 5 of your pieces. And now these are going to close over top of your waterfall, and I'm going to add a magnet going from here to here. So we're going to do that same way we added the magnet in the very beginning. So I'm going to put one piece of score tape here with a single magnet. Let a magnet let it find its buddy through the cardstock. Put another piece of score tape and close it up. And now you're magnetized. Okay, and now I'm going to add 3 sets of magnets here to close this cover. So somewhere around there. Okay, so I'm going to put 2 magnets magnetized together on each of those pieces of score tape. Okay, and then I'm going to close this, push on those areas where we put the magnets. So now I'm going to add, this looks a little bit crooked. Let's put it on here. These 2 look like they're in line, but this one looks like it's off a little bit. Let me just check. Just want to make sure this is straight. It looks straight, okay. Okay, perfect. Now let me show you how to do the journal part. Okay, so I have 5 journaling pages. I've scored each one of them down the center. Okay, I'm going to give them each a little crease. And one of them I'm going to fold the opposite direction. I think I'm going to do this one, so that the white part is showing. And that's going to be the piece that is going to go on the outside of our journal. Okay, so I also have a few pieces of just like a different cardstock. I don't know what color you would say this is, like a beige mottled kind of cardstock, cut to the same size. And I believe these are 10 inches, yeah, 10 by 7 3/4. So I'm gonna kind of decide which way I want this to go. I'm gonna just kind of alternate these and maybe put in a piece of just copy paper every once in a while. You could do some tea stain paper, you could do book pages, like whatever you like. Just make like a mini kind of junk journal. Just no hard and fast rules to this. Just kind of do what you like. As long as that white piece is on the outside, that's the only thing that you need to really worry about. Okay, so make sure that this is on the outside like this. Okay, so now once you've got your pieces the way you want them, we're going to clip all of these. To keep them in place. Okay, and then you're going to measure about 1 inch down from the top and 1 inch from the bottom, or thereabouts, doesn't have to be exact. Okay, right on the spine. And then we're gonna make a mark right in the center. So center would be 3 7/8. Okay, so once you have your marks, take some kind of pokey tool and you're going to make a hole through all of these. Okay, and do the same with the other 2 places that you've marked. Just don't poke yourself. Okay, I'm also going to go from the back just to make sure that hole's nicely through. Okay, and then I'm going to take a couple feet, maybe a little bit more than 2 feet. You want it to be like probably about 3 times the length of your book. Okay, so I have a little bit more, but that's too much is better than not enough. Okay, so I'm going to start from the back side and poke my string through that hole. Okay, and then I'm going to put it through the top hole from the inside. Need a little bit of assistance. You can put it through a needle, but I think these holes are big enough that I shouldn't really need the needle. Okay, and then pull it down, or pull it through the back side. Okay. Okay, leave a tail here in the center, and then bring this one all the way down to the bottom. And from the back, we're going to go through the bottom hole. Okay, and then pull it all the way. And now we're going to go back through the center hole from the inside. Okay, so now you've got 2 tails on the back side. Make sure they're on opposite sides of this center string. Pull it quite taut and then tie it off. I had much more than I needed. That's all right. Okay, so tie it quite tight, but not so tight that the pages start to buckle or anything. Okay, and now I'm going to put a piece of adhesive across these just to keep them in place. And then I'm going to put a piece of cardstock over top of that. Just to keep them from coming undone, and also just to hide them as well. Okay, so I'm going to use my bone folder and just really kind of crease that down there. Okay, we can remove all of our clips. Okay, and before I add my cardstock to cover over this tape, I'm just gonna go through and re-crease each one of these. This is upside down right now, but that's okay. So I'm just gonna re-crease each one of these just to kind of help it along. Just to help it. This kind of helps it lay a little bit flatter. Okay, so now I'm just going to put just a scrap piece of white cardstock across here. Okay, so I've got a piece of cardstock that was just kind of in my scrap pile, and it is about 1.5 inches, and I've just cut it to 7 3/4, which is what our page height is. So I'm just going to put that covering over our score tape and roll it around. And And that will just hide our threads and just make it a little bit neater. I'm going to be putting pattern paper on the front of this, so you won't be able to see it. Okay, so these are going to sit on either side. So this one of them will sit in here, and we're going to adhere it in. So I'm going to wait until the decorating process to show you that. But all I'm going to do is put a whole bunch of adhesive on the back side, make sure it's the right way up, and then it's going to sit in there. And then the other one will sit in here. Okay, and that will kind of like bulk out your book enough that everything will sit really nicely. Okay, so I am going to do some of the decorating off camera just because it does take quite a long time. That's the part of the process that takes the longest. Any kind of extra bits I will come back and show you, but the majority of the decorating I'll kind of do off camera. So I'll be back once I'm done that. Okay, so I'll kind of show you what I have done so far, and a few pieces we'll put on together where there's something that I'd like to show you. So this first flap here, I want to add just something that indicates that it opens. So far I've just got white on the insides and then alternating this pattern with a little piece of the brown. I just put a little bit, just as much as you could see, and then it's just white everywhere else. So there was like I want a lot of room for journaling, and then just the brown on the inside, and then when you open this up, patterned and then white. Okay, so this first part where the magnet is, I want to add a little ribbon pull. So I'm just going to take a tiny piece of ribbon here. I'm going to put a little bit of ribbon just on the end, or sorry, a little bit of score tape just on the end there. And then just fold it over so it creates a loop. And then kind of place it where I think I want it to go, somewhere in the center-ish. Doesn't have to stick out too far. And then I'm going to put another piece of score tape over that, and then put my pattern paper on. Okay. So that piece can go down there. Fabulous. And then this opens up. I've got this pattern over here. And then when you open it up this way, at the moment, this is what it looks like. So I kind of like everything, whatever you're looking at, I want it to all kind of coordinate. So I've kind of gone with like, you know, a bit of the brown, blue, brown, blue. I just like it to all coordinate together. So on this side over here, I've already put one of those ribbon pulls on this one and then just white in the center. So I'm going to do the same thing over here with that same ribbon, just like we did. I tend to make the score tape about twice the width of the ribbon, so then I can bend it like that and then push these pieces of adhesive over, so it's got some adhesive on that part too. Okay, so I'll put this down here. Okay, fabulous. Now this piece of pattern paper can go on. Okay, just like that. And then that one does the same thing with the white. And then when these open up, got the, let's get back into frame. I've got the brick pattern over here, and then in the pocket, I've got, this is going to go in the pocket, and then inside the pocket I just have a little booklet. Just like that. Okay, so I just wanted to let you know that when we're putting something into the pocket, you want it to go in at least a ½ inch. I try to go more like an inch if possible, but I'd like to use my scrap. So this was a piece of scrap that kind of worked perfectly. But first, I'm thinking I would like to put some swing tabs here. So I have a couple little pieces of chipboard that have the brown pattern paper on them. They're black on the other side. And they have a hole here. So my plan is to put a swing tab here and a swing tab here, which means they'll be going into the inside of the pocket. So we'll have to cover the tines inside the pocket. So my first step is to get a couple brads. All right, so I'm going to kind of place this where I want it to be. So somewhere in the middle. And then I'm going to, through that hole, make a mark on the paper so I know where to punch my hole. Okay, I'm going to do the same down here. Make sure they're going to line up with each other. Okay, open these up and then kind of put your hand into the pocket so you don't go through this piece as well, and punch a hole. Okay, and then take your brad, put it through your swing tab. Okay, so through the swing tab like that, and then we'll put it through our hole in our pocket. Okay, open the tines inside the pocket. Okay, and then do the same with the other one, and then I'm going to cover up the tines on the inside of the pocket with some Tyvek. You could just use cardstock as well, but you just want something that isn't going to interfere too much with anything going into the pocket, so the thinner the better. That's why I like the Tyvek. Okay, so I'm just cutting a couple pieces of Tyvek here. And they will go on the inside of the pocket. And just make sure you adhere it really well so there's no edges that are sticking up that might interfere with your tags. Okay. Okay, and now we can put this piece of paper on. Okay, so I'm just going to tuck it into the pocket a little bit, and then when it's in place, then I let it adhere. Okay, and then our tag can go in, and then these would go over like that. just like that. Okay, but I'll show you what the rest of what's in here. So when you open this up, just got some white and one of the file folder cards that I just cut down a little bit. And then here is one of our journals. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to put both score tape and wet adhesive to adhere this down. I'm using a fairly wide adhesive, but it doesn't have to be this. It could be whatever score tape you happen to have. Okay, and then some wet adhesive. You just really want this to stay in the album. Okie dokie, I'm just gonna kind of smooth some of it out with my finger just so it's all the way to the edge and so there's no big gloopies that seep out. Okay, and then just place it down in the center. Now I tend to clip it just while it's drying, just to make sure it stays in place while I'm doing the rest of what I have to do. So close that back up, close these back up, and now we can work on this side. So over here in this part, white, 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 and then in the pocket, just got a piece of the pattern paper, and then this was already had like these images on either side, so I literally, it's just part of the pattern paper. I just folded it in half. Okay, so that's what's in the pocket. And now I wanted there to be something that indicated that this opened or like that kept it closed, and I really wanted to use some of these circle clocks because I love them. So I just added a tiny, it's just a strip of my scrap paper. It's about just over an inch by, I don't know, maybe 3 inches. I didn't even measure it. I just took a scrap of paper and glued it to the back underneath this guy here. Okay, and I just folded it over the front. So there's no scoring or anything, just fold it over the front. So my idea is to use this as a magnet. So I've got one of the clocks that I cut out that is on a piece of, backed on a piece of chipboard. So I'm gonna glue it onto this blue piece. And then I'm gonna put a magnet on the back here. I mean, we can even do the magnet now, actually. Let's do the magnet now, and then we'll glue those on. So I'm gonna put a magnet right about there, or a set of magnets, 2 magnetized together. Okay, so we got 2 together. Okay, perfect. So the magnet's there. Now I'm going to glue, put some adhesive just on the blue part and put my clock down there. Okay, so a little bit of score tape, just a little bit of wet adhesive. And let's put this, let's make sure we get it right side up. Okay, and then open that up, and then you want another clock on the back side so you don't see this, right? So we're gonna put this clock here. You can trim around it if it's not quite, they're not quite exactly the same. That looks better. Okay, now we can put this piece of pattern paper on. And now it's got a little closure. All right, so remember how we put our magnet over here so we know where this is supposed to go. So I kind of just, with my finger, just kind of like held this and flipped it this way so I knew how much pattern paper needed to be on there and how much was supposed to be adhesive, okay? So I just kind of basically marked it in half. All right, and now we're gonna remove this tape backing and we're gonna put some wet adhesive on and adhere it down to the left part of this A piece. Okay, so that magnet will kind of let us know where it's supposed to go. I kind of like to hold the two A pieces together as I'm doing it, so I'm holding with these two fingers, holding them closed. Make sure that it is straight, and then just press down. All right, and we'll open this up. So see how that guy just kind of sits perfectly? He was the perfect size for this. And then on the inside of this, we've just got our other journal that I have already glued in. Just like that. Okay. And there we go. That is our album. I'll just show you the sides. I've just left the blue. I quite liked the blue. I thought it turned out really well actually, so I just decided to leave it, and then I've just got brown on the back. I will probably put a few more embellishments, do a few more of the cut aparts from the collection, and do one here, do one in some of the spots that need a little extra something something, so I'll put a few more kind of embellishments here and there, but other than that, this album is finito. So I hope you enjoyed making this and that you will give it a try. It's a really cool way to kind of like combine the journals and the photo albums. I really like the having some elements on the front cover. I think that's kind of unique. So hopefully you vibe with that as well. And I think it turned out really well. So yay! Hope you're having a beautiful day and I will see you again soon. Bye!